to speak on fake news, who better to host than Yassine Hamdi, my fellow journalist and reporter here at TV. Good morning, Yassine.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Or I bet there are a lot of people better than me to speak about fake news.
No, not at all. You're a very good place to speak about it, especially that you worked in the news, you wrote, you edited, you were on the field. So I think you know your news.
Kind of. Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for having me.
Of course, you're welcome.
Well, I'm the guest. I used to be the host.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, I
Yeah.
bet. You want to be asking the questions.
Yes.
Okay, so today's topic is going to be fake news, especially when it comes to media consumption. So I think the first question that you want to start by is, how do you personally navigate your news when you open your phone, when you have your TV on and you're listening to the news, or you hear a new piece of information? How do you navigate through it, especially that today's media landscape is very vast?
Well, it's very fast. It's very different. Well, it depends on what I want to know. Well, I'm a big fan of sports, of history, of art. So it depends. It depends on the news. It depends on the sources. It's very important to check the sources.
Yes, especially when it comes to social media. I think it's less conventional than normal media when you have someone behind the scenes who is looking into the actual information, making sure it's true.
Everybody can express their opinion in social media, so it depends.
Right. Speaking of different media platforms, how do you think the role it plays in spreading these information, and especially misinformation? Because we've heard a lot of times that something was up, or I don't know, a new piece of information that was going viral, but when it comes to the truth of it, it wasn't true, but it was everywhere on social media.
Well, first of all, we have to make the difference between misinformation and disinformation.
Right.
Misinformation is spreading fake news with no intention to mislead. But disinformation, it's done on purpose, you know. So, as I said, the fact-checking and checking your sources is very important, especially when it comes to very crucial or sensitive news. Well, the most efficient thing, the most accurate, is to watch the news live.
Right.
You know, especially nowadays with the artificial intelligence and the deep fakes, you can make someone tell anything you want, and especially on live. All the sources are, let's say, not different from one to another, but it depends. When you have a very reliable source, you can rely on it.
Especially when you are critically assessing this piece of information that you just received. Maybe, as you said, in today's age, there's AI where you can fake someone's voice, maybe a celebrity,
Not
a journalist.
Voice. Well,
right.
This week they made a video of the Real Madrid player Jude Bellingham speaking in Arabic.
Right, I saw that.
It's crazy.
I saw that.
But you have to check. You have to check if the player played in an Arabic country before, if he has an Arabic background.
Exactly.
Then you can spot the difference.
Right. It might be fun, but it can also be very harmful when it comes to news. Right. So there's maybe a couple of instances or examples that you may have encountered while you were working as a reporter to the damage that can happen after someone spreads fake news.
Well, not only as a reporter, but well, when you're a journalist, when you're a reporter, you cannot be the normal person you used to be before becoming a journalist in your daily life.
Right.
Well, a few hours ago, when I went to my bed, I read a news. The former Barcelona player Dani Alves killed himself in jail. Oh my God, it's crazy. But the only person who spoke about this was a Brazilian journalist working for a Brazilian daily newspaper. And he kept his post, and nobody could confirm or deny the information. But the danger of this fake news, it can do very, very, very negative, and can make a damage on the player's family. For example, imagine his brother, his mother reading this fake news. It's crazy.
Exactly, it can be very harmful. I think that even happens in Algeria today. We hear a lot of the times someone died or a beloved artist that we grew up watching, but it's
It's just
mainly
for the
fake
likes
news.
on social media, the number of views, that's all. Well, when you use social media or anything, you have to do it with your ethics, with moral ethics.
Right. So I think here media organizations can play a very pivotal role when it comes to fostering a more informed public. So
Yeah.
we can shape the public opinion. It's our job. How can we do that and to keep our audience away from these fake news websites, from these inaccurate informations?
Well, as a journalist, I've been given an advice: never, never, never use another media as your source when you write your paper.
Right.
It is very, very, very dangerous. For example, lately, another private media shared a fake news on their newspaper and the digital platform in Arabic, French, and English. It was crazy. They said that Algeria refused to let an American aircraft to cross the Algerian sky, something like that, and they used as a source a Spanish newspaper, La Razón. Well, guys, La Razón is known for fake news.
Right.
So never use a newspaper
Especially a foreign one at
as a
that.
source. You're a journalist. You must have your own sources. You have to check. There was also a few years ago a French satiric media called Le Gorafi, Le Figaro, Le Gorafi.
Right, right, I've heard about it.
So it only shares satiric news just for fun.
Yes.
And they said that a French political person wants to build a wall between Algeria and France, just like Donald Trump.
Right.
It was just to laugh, just for fun.
I mean, just when you come back to geography, you know that's impossible.
But
So
unfortunately, another Algerian private media shared the news.
Right.
It was crazy. In the front page.
Front page, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like they have a globe where they can see
Then
that.
they apologize, but come on, it's too late.
Yes, I mean, that's a very good point to stick to your own media here in the country, and especially that we have state media, so it's more accurate
You have
than
your
other sources.
You can call, I don't know, the ministry or the authorities. They will confirm or deny.
Right, we have access to those resources,
Yes.
yeah.
And something very important when you're on the field, when you make interviews, well, you will tell the person that what they will say will be taken as
As it was said.
a source.
Right.
So according to, I don't know, this movie director or this movie writer, that these are his upcoming projects, well, after that, if it doesn't happen, well, this is what he said.
Right.
It's not the journalist's fault.
I think that fact-checking is very important when you're working on the field, and even when you meet different people from different ministries, it's good to have always a constant contact with them so they can give you the accurate information, so that you wouldn't have to resort to private sources or, I don't know, something that's not very accurate. I think when it comes to today's age, we mainly take our news from social media. So first thing you do in the morning is you check your phone, you scroll a bit on your different social accounts, and you can hear a piece of information or something new that happened while you were sleeping. I mean, it happens, but I think the main role here comes back to these media companies, these huge media companies that have a very big role in shaping the public opinion. How do you think they can manage their content in a way that completely, or let's just say with a big percentage, makes fake news very hard to spread?
Well, it depends who you work for.
Right.
Well, there are a lot of French media owned by Zionists,
Right.
especially in this period of trouble humanity is living, the genocide in Palestine, in Gaza. Well, there are a lot of media who stand with the Zionist entity. Come on, we see them murdering kids and women and innocent civilians, but they stand with the Zionist entity. If a journalist, one of the journalists dares to speak and say the truth, well, he's fired.
Yeah, not even that.
And they don't just spread fake news. They They only do that. That's their job.
They have an agenda, I mean, behind
Yeah.
it. Especially when, I don't know if you noticed the shift these past few months since what happened on October 7th. A lot of these young people from different parts of the world, maybe America, I don't know, Russia, these places that weren't very informed on what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Gaza, they got their information from main media sources, so they didn't know what was actually going on. And these classic media sources, as you said, are owned by certain people.
It's called money power.
Exactly. So they didn't have the access to information, but now thanks to social media, thanks to these Arab, thanks to these Palestinian creators, they are getting the right information, and they know which side of history to stand on, which is upsetting a lot of these media companies, and they are shadow banning any accurate piece of information.
Journalists who dare say the truth are targeted. Journalists were murdered in Palestine.
We've seen it happen, yeah.
Murdered, literally. And there is even something very dangerous that, I don't know if it's the Minister of Defense or the Minister of Communication of the Zionist entity, where he called for murdering journalists and photographers who reported on the events of October 7th.
Right.
It's crazy to call for the murder of a person, of a journalist.
Even their entire families.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this always comes back to having pretty good media literacy skills. So when you're watching the news or you're watching a report on some channel, I think when you have the necessary skills to decide for yourself, is this true, is it not, is it coming from the right source, can I believe this, is this a good media source, I think it always comes back to these skills. How do you think we can encourage the youth to get more informed and learn these media literacy skills?
It's a very good question. I think we should start media literacy at an early age.
Right.
Kids at primary school have to know, have to learn what's media. They have to know, I have to read newspaper. I remember when I was young with my beloved grandfather, I was reading the newspaper, and you know, it's very amazing as a kid to discover the world through a newspaper.
Right.
And it shapes your mind.
I think you were the kind of kid that always knew big vocabulary, big words that weren't meant for his age. I was that way too.
Yes.
So I think you said something very important. You said that these kids need to learn about media literacy skills from a very young age. How can that happen? It can happen when we incorporate these kind of skills in the normal school programs.
And the parents play a big role in that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, parents, yeah, like they can educate their kids, but these kids are spending most of their hours of the day at school, so it's good to have it on the program as well.
It's very important to have it.
Educational institutions can play a very big role in this.
They can, they have to.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you have a few suggestions on this topic to have on the program, maybe something small to introduce the skills to media literacy.
Yes. First of all, I think if I had to play a role in the educational system, I would say let's teach the children what's a journalist.
Right.
And after that, in the written production, I would ask the kids, imagine you're a journalist, and here is a topic, and try to write something. And without giving, I don't know, a mention, a mark, just do it. And it will free their imagination, it will shape their minds.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure this is one way to do it.
And we can try
yeah.
with fun topics. I don't know, there is a movie or a football player comment or something
they're
like
actually interested in. Yes, this is how you can get a kid's attention, by putting them in something they are already interested in. Yes, that's a very good way. I have another question. I'm sure you've noticed the shift or the change in media consumption habit these past few years. I mean, we used to pick up a newspaper in the morning with our coffee and get our news. We used to have the TV on while we eat, and we get our information also. But today, I think not a lot of us pick up a newspaper, or maybe those who do have the digital ones on their phones or tablets. Not a lot of us watch TV anymore. So the main source to get information today is throughout your phone. How would you say that impacted our way to listen to the news, to receive the news?
I used to do it. I used to wake up in the morning, take my newspaper, watch TV, having breakfast while watching the news, but I don't do it anymore. Well, I'm, let's say, I don't know, almost disgusted in humanity after
Right.
what's happening in Gaza. Everything is false, fake, and it comes from very so-called reliable media. You know, it's crazy. Media with a great background, great history doing such things. It's disgusting.
Right.
And you still don't know what to believe. Everybody has a price. There is no 100% accurate source, even though it could be, I don't know, your friend, your father who owns this media. Everybody has a price. Never trust 100% anyone.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty solid advice. Never trust anyone delivering news to you until you fact check it yourself. We're gonna talk more about fact checking after we go and listen to what the youth have to say on fake media and media consumption. Let's listen to you talk.
Well, I get my information from various sources. I make sure that the channels that I decide to watch, I need to be certain that they are centric, meaning the informations they provide are central. They're not like extreme, so they're not extremely left or extremely right.
When it comes to gathering informations, I'd like to check multiple resources, such as social media, I can say, websites, TV channels, and why not take an opinion expert?
Okay, well, it depends. So me personally, I generally get my news from social media, TV, not more probably. We're not using newspapers anymore, so yeah, generally it's on social media.
I get it like most people, from the World Wide Web, from the internet, and yeah, that's it. Google, amigo.
Well, when it comes to believing things on the internet, well, it depends on what exactly it is that I'm receiving on like, is it comments on YouTube, on Facebook? Is it videos? Is it news headlines that show up randomly? When it comes to comments, generally, I don't take them seriously because people tend to be extremely biased, especially when it comes to very sensitive topics. People tend to be biased on such things. Other than that, I decide to believe what I want to believe based on who's talking, first of all, because I'm not going to trust what a psychologist has to say about something that has to do with science or, let's say, microbiology, for example. So it depends on who's given that information. And another thing that I base my trust upon, I would say consistency, especially if something is extremely recent, extremely fresh. If you notice that a lot of people are talking about it at once, it's probably true and it's not something fake.
Well, this is kind of a little bit difficult nowadays because we have many fake news that are spread everywhere. So generally, I just choose my personal, addresses that I always use and I trust. So like my own websites or let's say my own TV channels that I believe they always share true news.
Let's be honest, you can just use common sense. Some things are just not to be believed.
How to decide? That is, I guess, subjective. Everyone is governed by their emotions and how they think, and it's just an emotional decision, I guess.
Yes, I have. The most recent one, where the Pentagon released footage of the UFOs, I did fall for that, and me and millions of people did. But recently, actually, they have been proved to be wrong. They were debunked, and visual experts, they did conclude that those footages of those flying UFOs, they were false. So yeah.
Well, for me, I use I need to check multiple resources, as I said before. For example, checking the source of the book, for example, checking the source of the website, or even using websites specialized in checking sources.
Yeah, generally it's on social media.
Okay, so how do you decide what to believe when you're scrolling on the internet? So have you ever fallen for fake news, and what was it?
Obviously, I guess we all did once, but I never did like such as something like very important that I missed or something, because as I mentioned like just now, I generally like use the perfect and the correct addresses to get my news, so it was never something like that much big or that big fake news.
Yeah, sure. Everybody did, I guess, at some point of time. They've fallen for fake news all the time, locally or internationally. And all you have to do is just check it to find out if it's true or not.
Obviously, we all did. And the most recent one is I saw a post that said that Ramadan is on Tuesday. And I wanted to believe that, so I did. And turns out it's not, and it's on Monday.
Multiple factors. The first one I've already mentioned, which is who's talking, who's presenting the information. Is it an expert in that field, or is it someone who is completely irrelevant to the topic that's being discussed? Another thing I base it upon is consistency. So, for example, there are two separate channels. Do they portray the same information exactly the same, or are there differences?
So what do you use to fact check?
Okay, well, I don't, there is nothing like so special, but I generally ask different people and check different places and let's say websites to get the correct thing I'm looking for.
Fact check. So there's a lot of tools and websites per se to fact check them. I just advise you to Google them. عمي Google ما قصرش معكم. So just fact check them. There's a lot of websites, and yeah, they will give you the correct answer, inshallah.
Well, there are like websites that will tell you that if the news is correct or not, specific ones. And also, you can just do the obvious thing, which is like ask someone, one of your members from your family, or like anyone you can ask, because of course there are people who know like more than you know, so they would know. And if not, you can just check websites or something.
We are back. Thank you to everyone who participated and gave their opinions on today's topic, fake news and media consumption. I think from what we heard these young people say, I think they are pretty aware on what's going on, and they have a pretty good knowledge on how to select their media sources and their news sources. How do you think Algerian youth is getting to be this aware, getting to be this smart about decision making when it comes to their media sources or where they get their information?
Well, thank God there are a lot of people. There are more and more people aware of what's happening. They're aware of the double standard policy used in the disgusting double standard policy used by some so-called reliable media. They're aware of what's happening in the world, and it's not that easy to trick them.
Right. You spoke about having your own little routine when it comes to getting news or getting information. How important is fact-checking after you get that piece of information in your own routine? I'm speaking about Yassine, not as a journalist, but as a normal Algerian who gets his information from his phone or from the TV or from the newspaper. How do you go about fact-checking?
Well, there's the internet. Well, for example, I don't know if they say a plane crashed in any country. Well, I check on internet. If it's a country I already visited or I have friends in, well, I call them, I send them messages. I wait for that answer, and I try to have the most accurate source in there, because it's very important. Even the most powerful or reliable sources can be tricked.
Right.
Especially today with artificial intelligence. It can be good when you use it with moral ethics, but it can be very harmful.
Speaking of good and harmful, there's another thing when it comes to fact checking or constantly being into that rabbit hole of going to have the new information, getting that fresh news, and then going into check it. You stay more exposed to this kind of information. So it can go either way. It can go pretty good for you, or you can become very suspicious of any piece of information that you receive. I mean, how can we stay informed and also keep our limits to stay informed, but not in a way that makes us suspicious of everything around us?
Not only suspicious, you know, some information can affect our mood.
It can
affect our life. It reminds me of what a friend of mine told me a few days ago. She said, when I go home, I see my parents in front of the TV watching the news and what's happening in Gaza. She said, it's terrible, it's very sad, but it affects my life.
It
And
does.
I can't be happy or even a normal person when I see the cruelty of what's happening there. So you have to keep a balance, you know, especially while the news are full of, unfortunately, of bad news. The world we're living in, there are a lot of bad news. So we have to keep a balance, to find a way to keep a balance between the news and the way it has an impact on our daily life.
Exactly, yeah. We had a therapist here on the show with us, and she told us about something new that's coming up in psychology after these recent events. She said it's called collective grief. So we're all feeling the same emotions when we are facing the same news or the same, you know, what's going on in Gaza and Palestine or in different parts of the world, even in Congo, what's going on there. There's a genocide going there also. I think she said that this grief makes us go about our day, but in a different way. So our mood is definitely down, and we feel constantly guilty that we can't do anything about it. But I think it's good to be informed. It's good to stay on the right side of history and contribute as you know, normal human beings. We can't help them on the field, but I think prayers and spreading information and correcting.
The least we can do.
Yeah.
Never stop sharing.
Never stop sharing. Yeah, that's a very good one also. Yeah. But you know, it always comes back to that side of don't be too exposed to those images. Don't be too exposed to those videos. But also stay informed.
Stay informed.
Right. So I think there's another thing that we should talk about here. When you are editing the news, now we're speaking about Yasin as a journalist or as a news editor or as a reporter. When you have something to report on, when you have a topic that you need to write a paper on or, you know, deliver a report on, how do you go about checking your news or checking the facts when it comes to that specific topic? Let's say you have something, you know, the prices of gas are going to go crazy these couple of days. How do you go about checking that?
Well, it depends if it's a press conference, if it's an interview, if it's a report, it depends. Well, first of all, when it comes to numbers, when I see that the number is crazy, mind-blowing, I try to keep it. Well, I try not to publish it. But if I have to, well, I'll say that this person, this, I don't know, high executive or something like that, said that the price should be, and I give the numbers. It depends on the topic. You said you were speaking about gas. Well, after the GECF, the gas price should be stabilized.
Right.
And according to, well, the GECF is the source of the numbers. Well, I am not responsible of the numbers given during the summit, but I think it's true what they say, and so I'll take it as a source.
So yeah, you can use them as a source. So you just go and check the most recent, the most official source that you can find.
Come on, they're the official representatives of countries, so.
Yeah, I think we're good. We can take them as a good source. So today's age is very fast. It's called the fast age. So a piece of information, when it comes to you, you want to publish it, of course, before anyone else gets to it, before anyone else shares it before you. But there's also the responsibility of thoroughly verifying its accuracy. So how do you go about finding the right news, finding the right information, and publishing it in a fast pace before anyone else gets to it?
Well, for me, the most important thing is to get the real information. I don't care if 10 or a million journalists before me published it.
Right.
If I get the real information is the most important thing. Because above all, being a journalist is telling a story, the story of something, someone, and saying the truth. For example, a few days ago, I think it was last week, there was a Zionist channel that said that high executives of the Zionist army and soldiers resigned from the military, and they even deserted the military
Right.
after the atrocities happening there. Well, I think it's too late after murdering thousands of people. Well, I'm sorry, I leave. No, it's not like that. But it was relied by a Zionist channel. And after that, there is Zionist media that said, no, it's not true, it's fake news. But this media is known for fake news, you know. So other sources in the world, press agencies, channels, they said that it really happened, you know. And till now, we still don't know if it happened or not.
Right. So yes, and today everyone is looking for the next sensation, the next big news. They're using clickbait, just doing anything to get views. How do you, as a journalist, stay committed to the responsibility that you have laying on your shoulders to present to your audience something they can trust and something of quality journalism?
I try to keep my ethics. I try to bring something new. If I can't, well, I won't spread fake news. It's the least I can do as a journalist. I have to respect my job and respect the others. It's the most important thing. I remember when I started as a journalist, I'm still a beginner. Well, a colleague told me, when you make a documentary or an important report on, I don't know, an artist, a Nigerian writer, a scientist, you have to bring something new. You have to make a difference between your
work.
There should be
right.
a difference between your work and something already done in the past and that's available in the archive.
And scoop, as we call it.
Yeah. But scoop, just for scoop, no. It has to be reliable, accurate, and true.
All right, that's amazing. I love that. So I think we have concluded everything in today's topic. In the end, I can give you space to give a piece of information to any aspiring journalist or anyone who is interested in being present in the media field, so we can keep them on the right track and away from misleading information.
Well, not just journalists, but as a human being, just use your ethics, your moral ethics. Stay committed to the truth. And as a journalist, stay committed to your job and to your soul, to the mind you shaped when you wanted to be a journalist. Whenever you do anything, remember why you wanted to become a journalist. And it will make a difference. I hope so.
Thank you, Yasin. That was very inspiring.
Thank you for
being here with us today. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
The pleasure is mine.
So, everyone, we have concluded today's episode. We spoke on fake news. Our guest was Yasin Hamdi. See you in the next episode.